screams at her, he yells at her, "You never listen to me, you don't love me."
Jordan's primary issue he had was Ashley was not having sex with him.
The proof will show that there was physical abuse in the marriage, mental abuse. You're worth nothing.
Jordan Henning's sentencing is set for today. Remember this guy? He was convicted of manslaughter in the shooting death of his wife, Ashley. And for the first time, we're expecting to hear from the Henning children. And a rare sight, defendant Karen Reed participating in all of the sidebars at her retrial. So how's the jury perceiving her involvement? Plus, a Georgia man goes to Walmart to buy Tylenol and ends up being charged with attempted kidnapping. We'll show you the viral surveillance video that his defense team says proves his innocence. And also this hour, we've got an arrest finally made in Eliza Sherman's mysterious murder. We're talking 12 years later. But the question remains, who ordered the hit? A close friend of Eliza's joins me live this morning. It's all coming up next for you right here on Opening Statements. Good Tuesday morning to you and welcome to Opening Statements. I'm Julie Grant. We got a great show planned, so let's get started. Grab that cup of coffee. It's time for my opening statement. It's Judgment Day. It is Judgment Day for defendant Jordan Henning. Remember this guy? He was convicted of first-degree manslaughter for killing his beautiful wife, Ashley, at her birthday party at their home. Ashley outranked Jordan in the military while she was alive, and she was posthumously promoted to Master Sergeant. The jury recommended that the judge give Jordan Henning the maximum allowable punishment of 20 years in prison. And I fully expect the judge to do that today. But I've got to tell you, my friends, that is not long enough. In my opinion, prosecutors presented the necessary evidence for a murder conviction. We all saw that video. He shot her 4 times, reloaded his weapon, came back and shot her again and spit on her body. I was stunned that that jury returned a verdict of only first-degree manslaughter. And to me, it is a crying shame that that jury didn't see the evidence the way that the prosecution intended for it to be received. It was a disgusting, appalling crime that Jordan Henning committed, and to me, 20 years sure doesn't seem to be enough punishment to fit that crime. Today, we should be hearing from the Henning children. Let's not forget that there are 2 sons and a daughter that make up the Henning family. May God give them strength today and every single day going forward. Hopefully those children will find some comfort in the pride that they have for their mom and her service to our great country. Master Sergeant Ashley Henning, I salute you. That's my opening statement. Let me know if you like it. Right now, it's time for your daily docket.
She got mad and she would grab me right in the manhood. She had kicked me in the back down our concrete steps. Don't know what I was thinking.
The story I was just talking about in Kentucky, Jordan Henning will be sentenced at 10 a.m. Eastern time. We're going to be streaming that hearing online. We expect it to be very emotional, and we know that Ashley Henning has a lot of support from her family and her friends. In Tennessee, we've got jury deliberations expected to happen today in the fatal beating of Tyree Nichols. This case is being tried as a murder case. 3 former officers are the defendants. Court's going to resume at 10 a.m. Eastern time. And in Massachusetts, testimony resumes in the Karen Reed retrial at 9 a.m. Eastern, and we'll go there live together when it does. And that is our top story this morning here on Opening Statements. Lieutenant Paul Gallagher will be returning to the witness stand for more cross-examination. On Monday, we heard from 6 state witnesses, including firefighter and paramedic Katie McLaughlin. She was one of the first responders to 34 Fairview Road the morning that Officer John O'Keefe was found unresponsive in the snow. McLaughlin talked to Reed when she got on scene and testified that she heard Karen Reed say, "I hit him."
I asked if there had been any significant trauma that happened that preceded this. And she answered with a series of statements that she repeated. "I hit him. I hit him." There was a woman next to us who told her to calm down, stop talking, calm down, you're hysterical. So she repeated, "I hit him." And a police officer asked her, said, "You what?" And she repeated it again, "I hit him." And the officer then signaled for his sergeant to come down to the scene or down to where he was.
So how strong is Katie McLaughlin's testimony? We know she isn't the only witness who's testified to Karen Reed saying she hit John O'Keefe. So will that testimony sway the jury? Let's talk about it. I want to welcome in the Director of Prosecution Projects at Florida International University, former homicide prosecutor Melba Pearson, and nationally known radio host, the creator and host of Road Patrol Live, John DePietro. And John is in the courtroom all this week. And good morning to you both. So John, let me begin with you. You were there watching the testimony on Monday. You saw Katie McLaughlin. Tell us what you saw with the jury during her testimony, if you would, please.
Julie, very relatable and a first responder. Jury locked on her. And this is such important testimony. And about, Katie McLaughlin, she also answered the call. She was on duty. She went as a first responder to try to do what she could regarding John O'Keefe. And her testimony went right in the consistent theme of Jen McCabe right there on the scene. I thought it was very telling, and the jury leaned in as she described Jen McCabe even telling Karen Reed, "Stop talking, you're hysterical." Karen Reed, Julie, last week, right outside that courthouse, Karen Reed described Jen McCabe as the quarterback of the controversy. How is the quarterback of the controversy telling the defendant not to talk? I believe the jury, and it was Monday morning, and they were fresh and rested for the weekend, they found Katie McLaughlin very credible, very relatable.
John, thank you for that. Boy, oh boy, I think there's another quarterback of the controversy, and it's sure not Jen McCabe. It's somebody else who's standing accused. Melba Pearson, your thoughts, please, on the testimony coming in from this firefighter, this first responder, coming in and saying something that multiple other witnesses have already said. What did you think of her testimony yesterday, please?
Yeah, good morning, Julie and John. And I agree with John's assessment that this testimony is incredibly powerful. A part of it is because she's tangentially related to the case. In other words, she's not law enforcement. There's been all this discussion about did law enforcement try to do a cover up and all of this. She's a paramedic. Everybody looks at paramedics differently, as in they come in, they save lives and all of that. So just the aura of being a paramedic already gives her a different level of credibility, especially since the defense has gone so hard in trying to discredit law enforcement and their testimony and the way the investigation was handled. So it's clear the paramedic has no dog in this fight. She just came in, saw, unfortunately, the victim on the ground and clearly stated what she had saw and how she tried to help. So I think this definitely resonated with the jury and is going to be incredibly powerful in terms of her credibility, and not good news for Karen Reed.
Right. Melba, thank you for all of that. I want to play a couple clips for you both. This was something that it was brought up on direct and again on cross, and it seems that the prosecution knew the defense was going to try to do what they did last time and try to make some connection. We know that the defense is trying to vilify two families in particular, one of them being the Albert family. And they made a big deal about Katie McLaughlin going to high school and being in groups socializing with this other young lady. Let's take a look at some of that.
Did you know somebody who had lived at that home?
Yes.
Did you know that person lived there prior to that night?
I learned that she lived there
Okay. And that person that you knew lived there, what is their name?
Caitlin Albert.
How did you know Caitlin Albert?
We went to high school together.
Your relationship with Caitlin Albert is far more than simply somebody that you went to high school with. You've been photographed with Miss Albert on many occasions at many celebrations with your girlfriends, correct?
Like a sidebar, please.
I'm going to allow that.
Is that right?
Been photographed on occasions with her.
On occasions, yes.
John, tell us, please, how was the jury reacting to her being grilled about this? I don't know if you got a relationship.
You know, Julie, it's not resonating. And I'm glad you said that, because I've noticed something, Julie Grant, and that is Hank Brennan, the special prosecutor, he's talking to the jury. He's talking to the witnesses. Alan Jackson, I've noticed, Julie, and the word I'd use is they're wincing. He's attacking the first responders. He went on to attack Katie McLaughlin. He attacked the others who were trying to save Officer John O'Keefe. We know from the first trial that they have this grand conspiracy. I'm telling you, it's not resonating. Alan Jackson, I've noticed, he makes the jury uncomfortable. If you go into a house or a party or a restaurant and there are people that are bickering, it makes people uncomfortable. It brings up anxiety. Alan Jackson, with this constant attack, he's like General Sherman going through the South. I know that he's going to be doing this to build towards Michael Proctor, but it just, in our society, police, he's doing it again now with the canned police. Police first responders, we respect them. We revere them. They're the people that go in with the training to save lives. It just, I can tell the jury isn't understanding why he's being so rough. And I also want to point this out. Katie McLaughlin, Julie, she went toe-to-toe with Alan Jackson because they had leaked her name out there. She started being attacked right away because they knew she had important testimony. Alan Jackson was trying to say, no one knew who you were till the first hearing. We know that that is not true. They purposely put her name out there to try to intimidate her and other witnesses.
John, I'm so glad you mentioned that, because there was a moment where it came up. I wanted to ask you about that, where she was able to testify a little bit about the horrible harassment that she's received because she's an innocent witness, lifesaver in this case. Would you tell us what exactly that moment was, please, John?
It was as Alan Jackson started kind of walking through, she talked about, and I mean, I knew her name because of discovery. Aaron Reed leaked out, from what we believe, all of the discoveries. So her name, as she was talking about, here she is, a young woman, paramedic, went into this profession, which she seems very suited for, and she started being attacked online. And the forces of the Reed camp, they were being proactive. What people need to understand is we didn't learn their names once the trial started or any hearings. People knew about it way ahead of time, and that's what makes this so different. Alan Jackson was trying to argue, what are you talking about? No one knew who you were till the first hearing. Katie McLaughlin, Julie, and again, why was she being attacked? For doing her job? Because she had important testimony, because she heard Aaron Reed say, I hit him, I hit him, I hit him.
John, you're exactly right. And she was a key witness from the outset. You're right. They identified her as such. And this breaks my heart that this young lady has been attacked like that. And that has been the pattern. Attack witnesses, attack reputable people, attack anybody who may have evidence or an opinion about Karen Reed's alleged guilt. You know, and so here we are. Bottom line, the burden lies with the prosecution. No matter what's going on in the court of public opinion, people can think what they want and wage their keyboard wars. Melba, in terms of proof, we know the Commonwealth's got the burden. Karen Reed is cloaked in the presumption of innocence. How do you think the Commonwealth is doing proving the case they've set out to prove?
So far, I think the Commonwealth is doing a really good job. They're bringing their strongest witnesses first, which is always the formula. You bring your strongest witnesses at the beginning and at the end, primacy and recency, and you bury kind of the more boring or the weaker witnesses in the middle. So they came out swinging with strong witnesses. Again, you've got this paramedic who is highly sympathetic. And again, think about it. This is somebody she went to high school with. The jurors could all see themselves in the same position as her. Like, wait a minute, I happen to know someone from from high school, and all of a sudden that is starting to be used against me and used to destroy my credibility. So I think definitely the jury is resonating with her, and that is a calculated move made by the prosecution to start off strong, have the defense on the back foot, and of course, as John rightly pointed out, the defense is not resonating with the jurors. And if an attorney is not getting along with the jury, guess what? It spells doom for their position or their side of the case, period, end of story.
Thank you for your expertise on that. Appreciate it. John, let me ask you one last question, please. A lot of people noticing how animated defendant Karen Reed is at the defense table. I mean, at some point, she's like completely turning around, looking behind herself, shaking her head. Some judges may not put up with that. You both have been in enough courtrooms. I know many judges I practice in front of who would not tolerate that. But it's happening. She's very cognizant of the cameras, we know. She's very cognizant of the optics, we know. John, is the jury paying attention to her at all?
Oh, they are, Julie. They're locked on her. And on top of that, I think that's one of the reasons why the defense has her go up to the sidebar, because otherwise she's just sitting there alone at the table. Oh, no, make no mistake about it. They're locked on her. She has some bizarre reactions sometimes to things, and especially it's very effective when you can see the Karen cam, as they call it, the camera that's just on her. It's just a matter of time before we have a real episode in court.
Right. John, thank you for that. And thank you for mentioning the sidebar. That's a little tease for a segment we've got coming up later in the show. John, I know we need to let you go into the courtroom. John DePietro, thank you so much. We'll be following you on social media today. And Melba Pearson's coming with us. Please do the same at home when we come back. Here's what's coming up on Opening Statements. We've got a Georgia man, this guy, in jail for over 40 days being accused of trying to abduct a child at Walmart. But his attorney says the surveillance video will prove his innocence. We'll show it to you. And we're one step closer to justice for Aliza Sherman. Over a decade later, and finally an arrest made in her mysterious murder. Her close friend joins us live on the program.
I had a female caller asking for help, but she said she's just been attacked, and she just kept repeating, "Help me, help me, help me."
The medical examiner's office told us today that Sherman was stabbed 11 times on Sunday, right down here in this walkway behind the Galleria.
A lot of people would like to see this case solved, and she deserves justice.
Is Karen Reed a killer girlfriend?
She's guilty.
Or the scapegoat in an elaborate cover-up?
Karen Reed was free!
Karen Reed is accused of murdering her police officer boyfriend.
And it's stated repeatedly, I hit him, I hit him.
She may end up taking the stand. Her first trial ended with a hung jury. They haven't proven anything.
Will a jury finally agree on a verdict? We know who did it.
The Karen Reed murder retrial. Live coverage today on Court TV.
Now for what's trending in true crime, a Georgia man looking for Tylenol at his local Walmart has found himself behind bars accused of attempted kidnapping. This is Mahendra Patel. He's due in court for a bond hearing today after a grand jury indicted him on April 3rd on attempted kidnapping charges. Patel has been in jail for over 40 days since his arrest, and according to his attorney, this is going to be his first appearance in front of a judge. Patel's attorney is releasing the surveillance footage of the incident, and you can see after walking around the store, the father of two appears to grab the child of the accuser. Well, one side is saying he's trying to take the child away, but the other side is saying he was just helping the mother with her two kids when the one child looked like he was going to fall. They meet again in the store, and Patel walks away, even continuing his shopping. So what do you make of this incident? Here's another look at that footage. We're asking, should Patel be in jail right now? Let's bring in our power panel guest. Still with me, attorney Melba Pearson. I want to welcome in private investigator and military veteran Manuel Gomez. Good morning to you both. Manuel, would you start us off? What do you see when you look at that footage?
Well, I see that this case is unfortunately prosecuting an innocent man. She's alleging that he tried to take her child. But when you see that little moment that he does touch the child, she turns around and smiles at the person next to her. which is the guy in the peach shirt, okay? And you see, he actually sees the whole thing. But there's something else even more egregious in this case. The evidence is showing in this case that this man is innocent, and the prosecutor is failing to do the right thing. This lady has a history of lying under oath. She's currently in a civil lawsuit against Lyft for sexual assault, and she accused them of being raped. The police report shows that she lied and she never was. And again, this evidence is going to come out, and not only that evidence, but the fact that the police officers have lied, stating this man fled the store, ran out, there was a scuffle. None of this occurred. This is just another egregious case.
Wow. Manuel, thank you for that. We're going to have to do some digging here at Court TV because we have not confirmed that. But thank you for that. That's something we need to look into and see if this woman does have any history of making up anything false. We know the prosecution convened a grand jury. Melba, I wanted to ask you about that. We were in our editorial room yesterday saying, didn't the prosecutor have the video? One would think they would at the grand jury presentment, but maybe not. I would love your thoughts on that aspect, please.
Yeah, I mean, I have to agree with Manny's assessment, and I'm going to go one step further. She's giving me Karen vibes, and the kind of Karen that destroys people's lives, that cause people to get killed. And if this is true, and I have no doubt that Manuel's on point with his investigation, but if this is true, she should be prosecuted for filing a false police report, and Mr. Patel and his family should be also suing her for all of that. But I digress. But the point is, in terms of the grand jury, the prosecution can select what evidence they present to the grand jury. There is no ethical obligation or rule that the prosecution has to share everything that they have as part of discovery. They can cherry pick what they'd like to show and what they don't. And unfortunately, it seems like the prosecutor in this case cherry picked the evidence that was most favorable to the alleged victim in this case. And again, the whole thing just flies in the face of common sense because the man in the peach shirt witnessed the entire thing. He looked and he turned around and walked away. He didn't give any indication of, oh my gosh, this woman is in distress. Let me jump in and try to help her. So this is giving a lot of vibes. I don't want to go there with, the racism card, but I got questions. This is Georgia. We all know that it's, part of the South, not going to paint the entire state with the same brush, but there are people that hold very racist views there. And I really hope this is not a situation where he was wrong place, wrong time, and caught up in a racist situation.
No, but we love you. Thank you for bringing that up. That was actually what we planned to bring up in our next question to you both. So let's tackle this issue together. So unconscious bias, what we see may not be what somebody else does, right? Based on our own individual life experiences. And so looking at this video, we're wondering, could there have been an overreaction to the situation, the complaint by this woman, and then the quick arrest and the grand jury indictment of Mr. Patel? This is how Caroline Miller, the accuser, describes it. She said, quote, when I pointed my arm out this way to point it to the direction of where the Tylenol was, that's when he reached down, put both of his hands on the boy, and grabbed him out of my lap. She goes on to say, I'm like, no, what are you doing? He pulled him, I pulled him back. We were tug-of-warring. Patel's attorney, Ashley Merchant, insists that there was no struggle or any battery done by her client. And there's a faction of supporters online, and we wanted to pay attention to it, saying there may be unconscious bias at play going on here. So, fair question, let's tackle it now. Manuel, your thoughts on that, please.
Well, I agree that this case right now shows that this man did not kidnap this kid and that the tug of war did not happen. What did happen was you see her look at the guy with the peach shirt. She smiles. He goes off, gets the Tylenol, and then comes back and walks by her and shows it to her, and she gives him a thumbs up. Any man that would have grabbed the woman's child, she would have been screaming from help, from high heaven, and at this case, none of that occurred. Again, do I believe, like my partner said, this is a race card? I don't like to go down that road, but unfortunately, I think this case is based on his race and that this lady's deliberately being biased and saw an opportunity to possibly sue Walmart and this man. And if you look right there at that video, you see her smiling. There was no threat. She was not in fear.
I appreciate the analysis, Manuel. Thank you. Melba, to you next, please. Do you think that there could be something to what many of these online supporters are saying with unconscious bias at play?
Okay, I'm going to be real blunt. Unconscious bias is when you make a decision and you're kind of used to, you know, it's like an unconscious decision where you're like, oh, you're giving the benefit of the doubt the wrong way, right? This is more of a deliberate intent. Unconscious bias is this, that. Unconscious, it's not deliberate. This is deliberate, okay? It is very clear that there was no tug of war. It's very clear that she's lying from this. So to move forward with this case, with this exculpatory evidence right there, the fact that Walmart security barely got involved until the end of this, he went, actually paid for the Tylenol, left the store, and then this is when all the drama ensued. This is a deliberate effort. So this is beyond unconscious. This is either somebody was blind completely or somebody was racist, period, end of story.
Melba, I love it. Thank you for being so blunt. You know, something else, as we're watching this again and again, I'm just thinking about, and quickly, Mel, before we have to let you go, this woman in that motorized, cart, I'm wondering about her physical ability, because I wonder, could there have been any sympathy maybe for her if someone thought, oh gosh, this woman, almost had her kid taken, couldn't get up to chase him, maybe because of some physical impairment, who knows? And if this was staged by her, who knows? Who knows? I know you're suspicious of her, Manuel. Could that have all been part of this? I just can't help it. Something's bothering me now as I watch it. Melba, quick final thoughts before we have to say goodbye.
Yeah, I don't see the sympathy aspect because, again, she could have screamed to the guy that she had been interacting with for assistance. She could have screamed for store personnel to come help her. That's complete BS. No.
Yeah, I wondered if she deliberately was in the motorized car. Yeah, that's what I was wondering. I'd be curious to know if she needs that to get around the store. Mel was saying no, doesn't think so. I've loved both of your analysis on this one. Thank you. We're trying to talk with Ashley Merchant, his attorney, see if we can get her on the program and dig in some more. Melba, we have to say goodbye to you. Thank you for all your time and your legal expertise. We'll see you soon. Manuel's coming with us. Here's what's still to come on Opening Statements.
She was gorgeous inside and out. I never gave up on getting her justice.
That is Maria Zoll, Aliza Sherman's dear friend, and another one of her. And she's going to be joining us live this morning, live on the program next, to talk about the arrest in her friend's murder. And defendant Karen Reed participating in the sidebars in her trial. It's something we usually don't see here on Court TV. So we're going to talk about what's going on in Massachusetts. Welcome back. This morning, we're shining our spotlight on the murder of beloved Cleveland nurse and mother, Aliza Sherman, as we learn some new details about the arrest of her divorce lawyer. It's been more than a decade since Sherman was found stabbed to death in downtown Cleveland, right near the office of her divorce attorney, Gregory Moore. Authorities tracked Moore down in Austin, Texas, and arrested him on murder charges. I spoke with one of Aliza Sherman's close friends back in 2020, and at the time, she suspected Sherman's husband had something to do with it.
He didn't seem to feel too affected. At the funeral, he didn't seem affected. He was there, but he's never offered to help with the reward money or with helping to solve the case.
Now, the husband in the case, Sanford Sherman, passed away last year, but we know he did not cooperate in the investigation. We know that. Now, according to the indictment for Gregory Moore, He had originally planned to kidnap Sherman in order to delay her divorce trial. He also has a record of, get this, calling in bomb threats to delay his court cases. That's right. So he had criminal cases for that in past years. So now, let's talk more about this twisted plot, because the allegation against Moore is that he conspired with somebody. Police are saying it was either Moore or someone else who did the attack on Eliza Sherman that day that took her life. Let's bring back in private investigator Manuel Gomez and welcome in one of Eliza Sherman's dear friends, Maria Zoll. Maria, thank you so much for coming on the program, and person to person, I am so sorry for your loss. What was it like the moment you got the news that finally there was an arrest for Eliza's murder?
Well, at first I was numb. I was like, really? They finally, did it. I had no doubt that he was involved, and I don't hesitate to say that. From day one, I felt he was involved. I think it's taken too long. I compliment the BCI because they've only had the case for 4 years, and they worked very hard on it, and they have been successful. What held up? I've always questioned, what held up this case so long? Why did Cleveland refuse help from the BCI? That's what I was under the impression, that they refused help. I don't understand it. But once the BCI took over the case, they worked hard on it, and they achieved success.
Right. Thank goodness for that. Manuel, tell me, what do you think might have been the reason it took so long to charge Gregory Moore? And we know Eliza was going to his office that day. She had the meeting with him. It was on the way there to the office, and her divorce trial was supposed to start the very next day.
Well, the reason why is you got a professional con artist here. Like you said, Julie, in 2012, he was calling in threats. This was a year before Eliza was murdered. He was calling in bomb threats to delay his cases. The system has failed Eliza. The reason why is because this lawyer should have been disbarred just for calling in bomb threats. And second, Julie, I don't believe that he acted alone. I do believe and suspect that Eliza's husband was involved in some form to get this lawyer to murder his wife. And the reason why is he was already sued by the family after Eliza's death, okay, and lost in civil court. Now, what would be the probable cause and the intent for the lawyer to kill Eliza? Unless he was bought out by someone else to do that. And my suspect is the husband.
Manuel, I think you're spot on, as per usual. I want to ask you, Maria, what do you think about that? Have you ever been suspicious of Eliza's husband?
I agree with everything he just said. And of course, I've been suspicious of her husband. And I always worried about Eliza, to be honest with you. I mean, we were friends a long time. And if, when we first became friends, we went out as couples and everything. But then, things just kind of changed. And then we just, the girls just went out. He got, I don't know. I don't know. When Eliza and I would, and other couple ladies would go out, you could see the stress she was under, the way she'd be picking her fingernails and, just the way she was, looking down. And I say, Eliza, I'm worried. And no, I'm okay. He knocked her self-esteem so much. And when she then went back to work and got this IVF job, and, I could see her self-esteem coming back. I can't believe. I always worried. I don't know, a long time ago I had a premonition that I'd be talking about her death. And that's really bizarre that I would get a premonition like that. I never thought that she would have died like this, though. So brutal. And until we get justice, I'll keep talking.
And we thank you for that, Maria. And I see you have the pin on today with Eliza's picture, and I understand you kept a sign in your yard for many years. Tell us about that, please.
Yeah, month or two after this happened, I went and had a sign made, and it's pretty good size, and it's been up for 12 years. I have the same sign. I have it here. This sign here. I have the same sign in my car window, and people stop me on the road and they offer prayers, or, you know, if I'm in a parking lot, they want to talk about it. The pin signals people to talk, you know, about the case and how they're praying. And like I say, pin stays on at all times. I've been to weddings, funerals, all kinds of events. And if you look in the pictures, there's the pin. I will never give up. And I'm so happy that we're at a beginning stage, I believe. We got a long way to go. And yes, I believe someone else is involved, and most likely her husband, who would else want to kill Eliza Sherman.
Maria, what a wonderful advocate you are for your friend. She was lucky to have you as her dear friend when she was alive, and her family is so lucky to have you now as we continue on that quest for justice. We won't forget about your friend, and we'll have you back on the show. Maria, thank you so much. And Manuel Gomez, always great to have your expertise. Thank you for weighing in on this story as well. And we're going to take a look at Eliza Sherman's picture one more time as we head to break. We're thinking about her this morning here on Opening Statements. Justice for Eliza. As her dear friend Maria said, it's just beginning, as now there's finally an arrest in her murder. We'll be right back.
It's been my passion to work in nursing homes.
One of our residents passed away.
On the next Interview with a Killer.
You watched and stood by while your patient was lying there being tortured.
What else was I supposed to do?
That's so conniving. Can you understand that? So much for your career in caretaking.
Interview with a Killer, season finale, Sunday at 8 on Court TV.
Now for what's tipping the scales, let's talk about what's going on in defendant Karen Reed's retrial. Testimony will begin any minute, and we've seen the defendant very active in her defense throughout this case. And she's even being allowed to participate in the sidebars with the lawyers.
Objection.
Sustained.
May we approach?
Okay.
Objection.
Sustained.
May we approach?
Okay.
And transfer of custody.
Objection, Your Honor.
I'm going to allow.
May we approach?
Now, you know, my courty friends, we rarely see defendants partaking in sidebars here on Court TV. I have rarely had it in my practice. Let's find out if this is customary in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. I want to bring in someone who practices in that very courtroom, criminal defense attorney and former prosecutor Joe Krowski. Joe, good morning. Great to see you as always. Is this normal?
Well, good morning to you. No, this is not normal. In Massachusetts, pursuant to Rule 18, defendants have a right to be and attend all critical stages of the proceedings, including all proceedings relative to the trial. But typically where you see a client go up to the sidebars during jury selection, that's typically where I would do it, because the defendant has a right to hear the potential juror answer questions, to judge their demeanor, and make informed decisions and participate in jury selection. Going up to the sidebar during the actual trial is something I've never seen before. That's not to say that Karen Reed doesn't have a right to do it, because my interpretation of the rules and the decisional authority is she does. The question really is it a good look in front of the jury?
Right. Well, and I would love your thoughts on that, Joe. What do you think the jurors might be thinking about seeing her go with all the lawyers every single time there's a sidebar?
Well, I don't know what the theory behind her doing it. Maybe to project strength and intelligence, and that she is a strong participant in her own defense, which she has a right to be. My concern for her would be a lot of the underlying themes of this case is that she is a person that wants to be in control, that she can be a little bit erratic. So constantly going up there to these sidebars, I would be a little concerned if I was her defense team. And keep in mind, there's 4 other defense lawyers going up with her. So it probably looks, in my opinion, to the jury like a little bit of overkill. Also, these sidebar conferences are really technical legal matters that they're discussing regarding, for the most part, objections. She is not a lawyer, so there's really no utility for her to be up there.
That's a great point. Joe, thank you for that. Speaking of not being a lawyer, while she sits there, and I've complimented her in the past, I'll do it again, always dressed appropriately for court. The attire is spot on, exactly what you want. The mannerisms, something else. We know that she's always looking busy, always seeming to shuffle papers, be on her laptop. I've seen her on her cell phone, almost looking like she's doing something at counsel table. And then apart from that, she can be very expressive at times. I mean, sometimes, I know you've seen it, Joe, she'll turn behind herself to look at the back of the courtroom, shake her head, make faces. We saw her yesterday morning. Many viewers were commenting on this clip we have where she seemed very upset about the sidebar and was talking with her attorney, Alan Jackson, afterward. And the jury is out of the room at this point, but we know they've seen her making faces throughout. Joe, in your experience, do you ever see judges in this courthouse give defendants an instruction to knock it off when they're doing distracting things and making faces and spinning in their chair?
It does happen, and I know from trial 1, Judge Cannoni admonished Karen Reed because Karen Reed apparently was laughing during during a situation that was, to the judge, anything but funny. I will give Karen Reed credit. I do think when she's looking busy, she is busy. She seems to be intelligent and an active participant in her defense. However, if I was advising her, I would tell her to refrain from some of the facial expressions and some of the body language she's been exhibiting, especially when the jury is present in the courtroom, because it signals to them that she thinks information that's being presented to them is not helpful to her case or her defense.
Excellent points, Joe. Joe, tell me, when we think about going to trial and each side, good trial attorneys like yourself know you've got to have your legal theory and why you should win and what happened and why you win under the law. Who do you think came up with Karen Reed's legal theory?
That is a mystery. If you watch the documentary, it looks like a private investigator that was hired by David Yannetti gave them some information and they ran with it. Now, that private investigator, I believe in follow-up interviews, has claimed that he didn't give the extent of the information that the defense team has claimed. Once Alan Jackson became involved in the case, I think they really ran with it. Kind of a Hollywood script for a Hollywood lawyer.
Right. Joe, we have just a minute left, but quickly want to ask you, how do you think the prosecution is faring so far in proving its case? I think your audio just dropped out, but that's okay. Joe Krowski, we thank you for your time on the program this morning. We're going to see more from the prosecution in just a couple of minutes, as we're going to have a lieutenant who was on the stand at the end of the day, and they recessed for the day with his testimony. He's back for more cross-examination. We saw him have a big moment in the courtroom on Monday when he showed the jury the cocktail glass that John O'Keefe was drinking out of, that he had taken from the bar the night he was killed, found right next to where his body was found in the snow. Thank you for being with us this morning here on Opening Statements.